Let's stay on this story. My next guest was right there in Houston at the Astroworld Festival. His name is Evan Pond, and he went to watch Travis Scott perform. And our chase team has reached Evan in Simcoe, Ontario. Evan, we just heard Drake say in his comments about this that it took him a few days to wrap his head around what happened. I'm wondering if you've been able to do that. Can you wrap your mind around what happened and what comes out at the end of it?
You know, I think a lot of us really, it definitely took a toll. Everyone at the festival had a very different experience. You know, some people enjoyed the whole time, the whole set, and others had to see, you know, piles of people passed out on the ground, coughing up blood, puking, you name it, really. So I feel like for a lot of people, it's definitely a recovery, and a lot of us still haven't wrapped our heads around the fact that all of that unfolded the way it did.
And Evan, I'm trying to picture you there. You're in a crowd. It's got to be like 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It smells like puke. People are passing out. What the heck are you doing in all of this? How are you being affected?
There's a point where I was dragged down into the crowd. I described in my past interviews that it's kind of like a wave effect. If one person pushes, it motions, it shifts the whole crowd. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of pushing. A lot of people fall to the ground, and once you're on the ground, there's a certain feeling to it. It's like you're unhopeful. Like there's no hope of you getting up, because once you're under, kind of like an undertow, once you're on the ground, there's no telling if you can get back up, because people, like thousands, tens of thousands of people from the back are rushing forward. So it's a scary feeling. Yeah.
You must have been out of your mind with fear.
Yeah, I was. There's a point where I thought actually I was going to die. My breathing slowed down. Yeah, I kind of accepted the fact. Then two like bigger guys came out of nowhere and grabbed my hand, and that's kind of why I'm still here.
Yeah, you know what? I can only assume the emotion of all of this. How emotional were you?
Yeah, it was pretty emotional. I'm not really one to cry a lot, but I was on the ground for like 2 songs. I just wouldn't stop crying, because I honestly thought I was going to die, as well as many other people. It was very scary for everyone, just overwhelmed with emotion. There's people hopping on medical carts, stopping them from passing through. Mm-hmm. In situations like that, it's time of the essence, right? You know, like you don't know, 30 seconds could have saved someone's life, and it's definitely very scary for everyone.
And we're talking about a concert. I mean, we're not talking about a riot. We're not talking about bullets being fired at a crowd and people trying to rush out of a venue. We're talking about a concert, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the weird thing.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like, still looking back on it, I've talked to a lot of people since the festival, and there's definitely a lot of people aren't sleeping, just because looking back on all of it, those mental images, they last forever, you know, like the physical pain, it wears off over time, but like that mental memory is like always going to be with us.
I even heard a story, Evan, about one girl who couldn't get out of a crowd, and she bit a guy in front of her on the shoulder. I've been reading about that. I mean, did you see stuff like that? People just being desperate to get up? I mean, you were lucky. You had 2 guys who helped you to stand back up when you fell down. It could have been a very different story, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, actually, I was at the memorial, and I did see that the guy's shoulder was bitten. But yeah, it's definitely crazy. There's a lot of fear there. And people that were trying to get out, the barricade design of the festival was very poor, I'd say, because Apple Music had their streaming station, because they were streaming the event. Mm-hmm. And that took up a lot of space, as well as there was certain VIP areas. So the barricade design was very poor. Like the design of the festival in general was, I'd say, I wouldn't say it matched the population of the festival.
I do want to ask you about that memorial. I know you went there to NRG Park on Sunday, but take me back to the day you arrived there just for a moment, because I'm wondering if there was anything that actually set the tone of what was about to unfold. When you got there at, what was it, like 4 a.m. on Friday morning, and there were people already camped out there. When they opened the gates, was there anything that kind of, made the spidey hairs stand up for you?
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, as mentioned, we camped out. I got there at 4 a.m. We saw security, I'd say about 8 to 10 horses, like security on horses, come through. And there was about six security guards on foot and 8 on horses. And we rushed, the gates were rushed at that time. And it seemed like they just kind of gave up, which that kind of set the tone where it's like, if you're going to give up now at the start of the festival, well, then what's to be said for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. And then Sunday, when you went back and you saw the flowers and the stories that people were sharing, what was in your heart on that day, Evan?
It was definitely very sad. There was actually a point, where I went in the night and we all stood in a circle and we all just talked about what happened and what could have changed, like what could have stopped this from happening. And it's just at the same time it's very discomforting, but it's comforting to know that there's people that are there to support each other, like the Cactus Jack community as a whole. Like, we're all very supportive of each other, and it's good to be around that kind of like family setting in such a time of discomfort, for sure.
And then you think there's a 9-year-old girl in hospital. There was a 14-year-old person who was killed, a 9-year-old in hospital, not sure what condition she will make it through, but everybody's certainly hoping for that. What do you think?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Still,
I wonder how that makes you feel.
I feel kind of guilty at the same time. I feel like I could have done more, but like deep down, I know that I couldn't have. And that's something I live with. I haven't stopped thinking about that since I've left the festival. Yeah, it's crazy to me still, like looking back on all of it. I've had like trouble sleeping and everything. Like, every little thing just kind of reminds me of what happened that night. There's actually a point where this girl collapsed like into my arms. She was beside me, and she looked at me and she said, "Am I gonna die?" And I couldn't answer because it's really, I don't know. I didn't want to give her false hope.
Wow. When you don't know the answer and somebody's asking you that question at a concert. Final question for you. Lawsuit. We know Travis Scott, Drake, or mentioned Drake in one of them, Travis in multiple. Anybody approach you? Are you thinking about joining a lawsuit?
I don't think, no. Since I'm back in Canada, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm not really, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm really involved. I agree with all the people that are filing, though. I think that a lot of this could have been prevented. Live Nation, especially, could have resolved. I feel like if they planned it out more, it could have resolved a lot of the issues that went down.
Yeah.
For sure.
People have those things that they ask, where were you when? And when they say, where were you, when that mob surged at the concert in Houston, you're going to be one of those people who says, I was right there.
Yeah.
Evan, I'm thanking you for your time. I wish you the best.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That's Evan Pond in Simcoe, Ontario.